especially if he was briefed on the play before the game, especially if he knows what's coming. It's his sole job, his one responsibility on that play at that moment. You got to be detailed, precise, and informed.
That's DPI.
Welcome back, everybody, to That's DPI. I'm Zach, and that is Tyler over there, and we have an extremely special episode for you guys. It is really the only thing we have on the docket today. It's one ref call, and it might as well be the ref call of the century, right? Screw ref call of the week. This is the ref call of the century. And so since it's the only thing on the docket, I'm going to pass it to Tyler to explain why this ref call is taking up an entire episode. And you're not going to want to miss it. It's truly worth its own episode.
So this is a ref call that Zach and I dub as the call of all calls. It is the infamous Decker reported rule. Or not really a rule, but the Decker reported incident as to whether or not him or Dan Skipper reported against the Dallas Cowboys at the end of the 2023 season. If you know what we're talking about, you know what we're talking about. If you don't, let me explain and set the scene as to why this is such a personal call for us. So we were at the game. That's what makes it so personal to start. But even more so, we are at the game with 3 other people. There's 5 of us in a friend group, and there is a divided section. Me and another friend are rooting for the Dallas Cowboys. Zach and another friend are rooting for the Detroit Lions. And then the 5th person in our group just didn't talk the entire game. But at the end of the game, we see the Lions score a touchdown that would tie the game if they kick a PAT. But is Dan Campbell going to take the easy way out and play for overtime? No. He decides to go for 2. They get it. They successfully get the 2-point conversion, only for it to be negated. They end up missing the next try, but the Cowboys push it back to the 2 at the penalty of their own, and then finally they miss it. But it all comes back to that first penalty, because if they don't call the penalty at play, which is, of course, who reported to who, then the Cowboys have the lead instead of...
the
Lions have the lead instead of the Cowboys. But the fact that we were at the game with a divided friend group makes this such a personal call to us. And it's honestly probably the stepping stone that created this podcast and why our marquee segment is Ref Calls. And said friend group has dubbed this call as "Shut up, you can't talk about this anymore."
It is off limits.
So we started a podcast to talk about it.
Yeah, so now, suck it, friend group. Now we have to talk about it because it's our job. So I'm going to let the broadcast kind of tell a little bit of a visual story there. As Tyler kind of explained what just happened. But Goff throws this clutch touchdown. Lions have no timeouts to St. Brown. And huge score. Obviously, they could tie it with an extra point. But Dan Campbell doesn't care.
And here is the play.
They're going to go for 2. And Goff play action. Oh, there was a... looks like a pre-snap.
Did they have to review it? Did they have to confirm the touchdown?
I think they had to confirm the touchdown, but Lions run the exact same play.
So now is the play.
And now is the play. Goff, play action, same exact situation. He fires to his left tackle touchdown, or 2-point conversion rather, and everyone's going nuts. A fat guy scored, and the Lions should win this game. But now the titular moment of this play is, Brad Allen making it all about himself, where he's going to announce that this was an illegal formation and Taylor Decker didn't report. Jared Goff pleading his case. It won't matter. Illegal touching on Taylor Decker. Because if you don't report eligible, you cannot touch the ball if your number is from 50 to 79 and 90 to 99. That's the rule.
Basically linemen.
Yeah, so basically
linemen have to report.
Offensive or defensive linemen. Yeah, and potentially linebackers, So I can get right into why I believe this is the wrong call. Why the refs got this one so wrong.
Real quick, and to kind of give the audience a glimpse of what we're going to be arguing, we're kind of going to be arguing the extent as to who is at fault here. And is it this egregious call, or is it a little mistake that the Lions caused, essentially?
And I think it's important for both of us, Tyler and I, to explain what our general belief and thesis is and what we're going to prove to you or try to in this episode. And mine is the refs are completely at fault and cost the Lions the game and potentially the number 1 seed in the NFC for 2023. Full stop, bar none. Tyler, you can give your thesis and then, we can go from there.
My thesis is that it's more extent. I do not believe that the refs cost the Lions a game. My belief is that if they had called a perfect game, the Lions would not have even been in this situation. And this situation at hand is partially to blame on the Detroit Lions in the way they went about things.
Okay.
So it's not an egregious mistake.
Got it. So with that being said, I may begin talking about why I think this call is wrong, if you're okay with that, Tyler.
Go for it. You have the affirmative.
We've seen everything. We've seen the play itself, and we've seen illegal touching. Notably on this play, there was another gentleman in this huddle, Dan Skipper, number 70. Okay? He is ineligible. He is a tackle. He's going to line up all the way over here at right tackle. He is ineligible, whereas Taylor Decker is. And notably, another ineligible player is Penei Sewell, who's lined up at slot wide receiver out here. This guy's ineligible too, okay? The Lions' pure objective on this play is to confuse the Dallas Cowboys defense. They have a tackle lined up at wide receiver. They have the backup in at right tackle. And Taylor Decker here, who should and did, I will prove, report as eligible. But even so, the point of football is deception of the other team. And I'm going to prove that the Lions are well within their right and did everything right to allow this deception to happen. So what is reporting as eligible? I kind of briefly explained it a little bit, but in order to catch the ball, if you have a number of 50 to 79 and 90 to 99, so basically any lineman number, you must immediately report this change of eligibility status to the referee who will inform the defensive team. So you must personally inform the referee per the NFL rules. A referee cannot assume that you are eligible from across the field. Even if you've reported as eligible during the game, it must happen. And I believe this is said every single time, every play. Prior to each play, he must report his status to the referee. So every single play that you want to report as eligible as an ineligible guy, every play you must report to the referees. So this shouldn't be some situation where Brad Allen is forced to guess, forced to assume. It should be every play reporting to Brad Allen. And I will show you what that looked like pre-play. So here's Taylor Decker, okay, and Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell obviously is going up to the referee to let him know, I'm lining up at wide receiver as ineligible, because that's something good to know, right? Penei Sewell did line up as wide receiver on that play, so he's just going to let the ref know that he's ineligible, but Taylor Decker is ineligible. And so the ref, if you're looking at this video, nods directly at Decker, who's the only one that approached the ref with Penei Sewell, and then they walk away. Dan Skipper's racing up to this, but he never actually gets any confirmation from the ref about anything. There's a zoomed in angle here that shows the ref nodding directly at Taylor Decker, pointing at him, and walking away. So the ref clearly saw Taylor Decker report as eligible, and you see him nod. Yep, nod. And then they both walk away. He never, ever engages with Dan Skipper. That is extremely important and titular to this case. One final thing that I want to address. This is not an argument that I think Tyler will bring up, but it's something important that I want everyone to see. Goff specifically tells Taylor Decker to go report eligible, since he's the one that's going to catch the ball. There was some arguments that, the Lions meant to report Skipper and instead reported. No, this proves without a doubt that the Lions' intention all the way was to throw the ball to Decker. There was never a doubt that this was the Lions' play. And so here's a quote from Lions offensive lineman Dan Skipper about how reporting is eligible. And he's a swing tackle in the NFL. He's done this numerous times before and since. Typically, you have to go up to the official and very directly tell them that you are reporting, which is consistent with the NFL rules. He said you can watch it all year. You can watch it in the first quarter. He did it. Additionally, it was reported by the Monday Night Football crew that Dan Campbell briefed the refs that this play would happen. So not only did they, and I think this is said in this NFL article, but it was reported nonetheless that the Lions briefed the refs before the game that this play would happen. So the refs had full knowledge that there was a tackle-eligible play. Dan Skipper knows exactly how to report and didn't. And I've established that it was actually Taylor Decker that did report to the refs. Dan Skipper never got confirmation from the refs. So it's my argument that the ref here made a huge mistake and essentially thought that Dan Skipper was reporting, announced him over the loudspeaker, made him the eligible receiver, whatever, when it was truly Dan Skipper, and the refs are 100% at fault for this. The Lions did everything right. Dan Skipper never approached the refs. They never had a conversation. He never did the motion of I'm reporting eligible. Nothing indicated that Dan Skipper was going to be the eligible receiver on this play, and the refs are at 100% fault. Deception is not illegal in the rule book, or else Bill Belichick would not be the NFL head coach. It is, you can deceive the opposing team by following the rules, and that's exactly what the Lions did here. Tyler, I pass to you.
So I go into cross-examination now, is what we'll do. So when a lineman reports and the ref says, yep, this happens, what happens next?
He should announce that player is eligible over the loudspeaker. He should inform the defensive team according to NFL football operations. Inform the defensive team. That's it. That's the only thing the rules state.
Remind me on law. Am I only allowed to ask questions right now?
I mean,
are we doing court stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing cross,
we'll do it that
you're
way.
not allowed to be argumentative in cross if that's what you're asking.
Okay, cool. Are you aware of what Murphy's Law is? It's not an NFL rule. It's a philosophical.
Yeah. Everything that can go wrong did go wrong, or everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Something like that.
Okay. Third and final question. While I'm not arguing that Skipper went up to the ref, he is in angling towards that play. Why? Why send him?
So Skipper did not go up to the ref. Is that what you're asking me?
Number 70.
Yes. He did.
Number
he never
70.
Went up
when
to the
he
ref.
Went on the field, why did he motion himself in that direction though?
Deception. It's plain and simple. He never approached the ref and he never communicated with the ref. So in my eyes, it's legal and it doesn't constitute a report per the NFL rules. He never notified the referee.
Okay. That is my cross-examination of questions.
Okay. I think that you're allowed to present your argument now.
Okay. So in a perfect world, obviously the referees are going to make every call, and when the referees make every call, they're going to get the right outcome of the game. My first piece of evidence is from the Dallas Cowboys' final drive before that touchdown. You can play that for me.
Yeah, let me pull that up for you. Yep,
okay.
Let me pull that
so
up
what's happening, though? So what happens in the Lions' second to last drive, Jared Goff throws an interception, giving the Dallas Cowboys the ball at the Detroit Lions' 29-yard line. If they score a touchdown, the game is virtually over, pending any act of God, essentially. A field goal keeps them in it, but a touchdown ends the game. So here is first down of that play, where it is a rush for
like
about
15
8 yards.
Oh, 8 yards, sure.
Rush for about 8 yards. However, they call, and you can pause it here real quick, they call a tripping penalty against the tight end here.
Peyton Hendershot.
So I solely want to focus on Hendershot right there. There's a block.
Tough to see, but
I don't see tripping. You see him engage in the shoulder pads. You see him throw the Lions defenseman away, and then he no longer engages. There's no evidence of tripping on that penalty. Nonetheless, they call tripping, brings the Cowboys back 15 yards. The next play is the next positive yards is an 11-yard play and then an 8-yard play. That would be enough to get a first down to get multiple first downs, actually, had the 15-yard penalty tripping call not been in play. So if the refs were to call a perfect game all game long, there's going to be a first down, and Dallas probably scores, or at least takes up more time, preventing the Lions from even being in the 2-point conversion play in the first place.
Sure, yeah.
That's point number one, is that a perfectly called game prevents the Lions from even being in their situation.
Okay.
Point of evidence number two goes to the play. Now, what we see here is almost go back to where before it snapped. And then pause it there. So it almost looks like the left tackle is covered up. Now, when you look, he's not, especially when you look at the footwork, we know he's not covered up. But over the speakers, you do hear the ref say, number 70 has reported as eligible. Number 70 has reported as eligible. I state that as an eyewitness testimony, as someone who physically heard number 70 is reported as eligible. Because my first thought is I know how Dan Campbell gets tricky. So I'm first thinking, okay, if you're the Cowboys, you need to watch number 70, because that's who has just been reported as eligible. But maybe he got it wrong. Sure. And this takes me to evidence point number 3, Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. And this is where we go back to the huddle of them going to make the report. So what we see here is Decker is coming on from the bottom right part of the screen, and you see Allen looking at Decker.
Yes.
Now, Decker has reported earlier in the game.
No, he hasn't.
So Decker had not reported earlier in that game?
That's false. That's false. I will objection. That's false. Decker has never reported as eligible because he's the starting left tackle of the Lions. He had no need to report as eligible. Okay.
Sustained. But we do have evidence of the Detroit Lions multiple times,
Dan
at
Skipper
least in the season,
reported as eligible prior in the game.
Correct.
On play 4 of the game. This guy.
Correct.
Not this guy.
Correct. But we do see, and this is where I say that maybe he made a mistake, but not in an egregious way. Murphy's Law. What can go wrong shall go wrong. Decker is running towards the ref as if he might report as eligible.
Skipper is running towards the ref. Decker's at the ref. You've got to get these guys straight.
I'm sorry. Number 70.
Number 70.
Number 70. Number 70. I'm going to refer to them as numbers going forward. Number 70 is who's running towards the ref.
Sure.
As if he's going to report as eligible. Number 68 is at the ref. But deception, while being part of the play, as we saw another tackle starting off in a tight end position, but the defense is told who is actually eligible and not eligible. So I say that the Lions are partially at fault in this situation, because if the defense needs to be told who is going to report, why even send 70 over to the ref in that portion? Get him away from the ref to avoid all forms of miscommunication. 68 in Goff, number 16 should be the only people anywhere close to the ref. And you see Brad Allen looking at him. He does nod his head, and I would argue that him shaking his head is more of like, yep, I got it. He's coming on to tell me, I got it. You guys can go up to the line now. So to recap, a perfectly called game prevents the Lions from even being in this position to go win the game. And the misconception that the Lions did, they got too tricky, and they put themselves in a position to where miscommunication could occur. And as Murphy's Law states, miscommunication then occurred. I open myself up to cross-examination.
Okay. I think that you had a lot of points there, so I'm going to address them one by one. We're going to start with the tripping call. You contend that had the tripping call been officiated properly, the Dallas Cowboys, quote, almost surely would have scored. Do you remember saying that? Do you recollect that?
Also stated, or at the very least, drain enough time to where the Lions couldn't do it.
Or wasted clock, yes. Do you contend saying that?
Yes.
Can you tell me when that play was snapped on the clock? At what clock value was that play snapped?
I do not have that number on hand.
Would you believe it was accurate if I told you I was looking at Pro Football Reference and said that play was snapped at 2:05 in the fourth quarter? Would you contend that?
I would contend that it was also first down as well.
Yes. So, would you also say that Tony Pollard gained 8 yards on that play?
I would.
Okay. So, I would say, do you understand the NFL rules surrounding the 2-minute warning and how the clock stops automatically after 2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So would you admit that this play that happened before the 2-minute warning was completely irrelevant because the clock would have stopped anyway with a new set of downs regardless for the Lions, for the Cowboys, excuse me. They would have started first down with the clock stopped no matter what happened on this play. First down with the clock stopped. Correct?
Post 2-minute warning?
Yeah, because this play was snapped at 2:05. So if this play was allowed to continue, the clock stops at the 2-minute warning, and they have either a second down or a first down. And since the penalty was called, the clock is stopped because it took more than 5 seconds. So
that was going to be my next question. Is it did take more than 5 seconds?
Yes.
No, I don't agree with your analysis on that, though.
You don't agree that the clock would have stopped at 2 minutes as per every NFL game since the 2 minutes warning introduction.
I'm disagreeing that the play is irrelevant. Because
I'm asking you if the clock would have stopped. I'm not asking if the play is irrelevant. I'm asking you if
the clock would have stopped at 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yes, the clock would have stopped at 2 minutes.
So, just to be clear before we move on to my next line of questioning, you agree that the clock would have stopped no matter what the outcome of this play was?
Correct.
Okay. Moving on, because I'm not allowed to argue during.
Okay.
My second point of contention, the all 22. You said it looked like the tackle is covered up, but he's not. So you admit that the tackle is not covered up.
Correct. He was not covered up.
So you admit it's a legal formation if Taylor Decker is the one who's supposed to be eligible.
Correct.
No further questions on this guy. Next question.
Point B of showing the all 22. I didn't say that he was. I never said that he wasn't covered up. I never said that it would have been a legal formation.
Right. I'm not sure why you brought the all 22 in. That was the only thing that you brought up during the all 22. You moved straight to the huddle. Okay. So final line of questioning is about the huddle. Do you admit that number 68? We won't use names because they're confusing. Number 68 approached the ref first and only, along with his companion number 58, who is not involved in this at all. Number 58 was never confused for someone who is reporting as eligible. But he did approach with Taylor Decker. Do you admit that those two men individually approached the refs?
Can you repeat the question? The full question?
Do you agree that Decker, number 68, and Penei Sewell, number 58, are the only two players that approached the refs on this call?
I do not.
Do you agree that those are the only two players that spoke to the refs on this play?
Perhaps.
Okay. Do you agree that the NFL rulebook, as stated earlier by my argumentation, states that you must inform the referees that you are reporting eligible?
I do.
And do you agree that NFL players, when they do report eligible, as testimony by Dan Skipper, typically have to be very deliberate and speak directly to the referees when they report?
I agree that is the rulebook's analysis of it.
Okay. Follow-up question. You are an NFL rules expert, self-proclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yes?
Yes.
What is the responsibility of a referee?
To follow the rules, but also make sure that the correct thing is happening.
Sure. To follow the rules. I'd like to focus on that. So the referee sole responsibility, this is going to be a question, is to follow the rules despite what the offense may be doing to deceive the other team, correct? Because there's formations, motion, all of that. All of that's meant to distract the opposing team. Motion. But the ref's job is to decipher all of that and then make sure it is legal. Right?
Okay.
You would agree on that?
Sure. Yes.
So would you argue that the ref's sole responsibility is to understand the rules and look through deception Would
Yes,
you
I
argue
would.
in that play? So, final question: is the offense allowed to attempt to deceive the opponent legally?
They are allowed to attempt to deceive the opponent.
Okay, no further questions. I think that I'm pretty satisfied with that cross. So now I think we can open up to discussion, maybe some argumentation. Maybe we can go back and forth, some affirmative 2 and neg 2 speeches if we want.
Sure.
I got to go first on my affirmative 1, so maybe you get to go first and I can finish it off.
Yeah. I want to start by going back to that tripping call. How many timeouts did the Lions have at that point? I'm trying to figure that out, but if you know, that would just speed it up.
They had 2 timeouts because at 2 minutes and 39 seconds, the Lions called their first timeout.
So they had 2 timeouts. So here's my basis of that argument. Is that play itself would not have won the game.
No.
But what they have is they've got 1st and 10. So coming out of the 2-minute warning, they would have been at 2nd down and 2 with 2 minutes instead of 1st and 25 at 2 minutes. The 2 of the next 3 plays, because there was in no particular order, there was an 11-yard play, an incomplete pass, and a 7-yard play. Now, because they started off at 1st and 25, and there being an incomplete pass, they were not able to get the first down, and the incomplete pass trying to get the first down forced another clock stoppage, resulting in them having to take a field goal. My argument is that coming out of 2 minutes, the next play was an 11-yard gain. So now the clock continues to run, and now they go back to first down. 2nd down, they certainly don't pass, but there's also a 7-yard play. At the very least, that continues the clock well within 30 seconds, or well within a minute already alone. But the multiple clock stoppages, or they probably would have taken their 2 timeouts, but the incomplete pass doesn't happen. But they get a first down. They never end up in long distance scenarios, what I'm getting at.
Right. And am I allowed to argue on this point? Because I think if we focus maybe point to point,
yeah, we're kind of going informal at this point.
Okay, so the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys clearly had a plan in mind when they began that drive post the interception, and that was run the clock out, as does almost every NFL team in that situation, okay?
Sure.
And to this point, the Dallas Cowboys had not run the ball very well. They had a total of 49 rushing yards from Tony Pollard on 16 carries. That's an average of about 3 yards per carry, 3 and change. But Tony Pollard had a long carry of 18, and you take that long carry out, it is 1.9 yards per carry. So abysmal, quite honestly. And this is consistent with what the Lions had done to everybody this year. They were a top 5 run defense in the NFL that season. So running the clock out on the Lions would be very difficult. But they start well with that 8-yard carry that was negated by that unfortunately, and I admit wrong, penalty. If anything, they should have attempted to call the tripping on Aiden Hutchinson, but I argue they shouldn't have because he never made contact, and tripping can only be called if you make contact. So no penalty should have been called on the play. The play should have just been allowed to stand. So 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 2 with the clock stopped at the warning is the next situation. Let's say the Lions tackle Tony Pollard for a loss or for a gain of 1 on each of those subsequent plays. They call their 2 timeouts. It's 4th down, and they kick the field goal. It's the exact same situation.
So hold on. I want to document this real quick, though. So with no penalty, there's going to be 2nd and 2.
Yes.
With 2 minutes to go and 2 timeouts for the Lions.
Correct.
Right?
That's right.
Okay. Going with your scenario, let's say that
one of the best run defenses in the NFL that season stops the Cowboys twice and forces 4th down.
So let's say it becomes we'll go with that scenario. They go. Let's just stick with 5 seconds per play.
Sure, that's about what happened in real life.
So that becomes 3rd and X number because he's not going to get the first down with 1:55 and 1 timeout, and then it becomes 4th and X with 1:50 and no timeouts.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And then we'll stick with 5 seconds. We'll say that the Lions receive the ball with what is it? 55 seconds left
Or
and no
45,
timeouts.
because they have to kick that field goal.
Oh, you're right. So 55 seconds is at the kickoff, and then we'll say, 50 seconds then?
Sure.
Yeah, because they didn't kick. Well, they did kick off, but it was a touchback.
Yep.
So
it
we'll
was a touchback.
say, so it was a touchback, so no clock ran. So we'll say that the Lions are getting the ball back at 55 seconds, okay, and no timeouts. So now I want to actually, and I don't know the answer, so this is
Tyler.
where we're kind of getting back to it.
That's the exact situation the Lions got the ball plus 10 seconds. It's a better situation than they actually got the ball. So
Okay.
it is irrelevant. The play doesn't matter. If the Lions stop them, they win. Or and the play is called correctly at the end of the game, they win. That's the tripping call to me doesn't matter, because if the Lions take care of business, which I fully believe they would have with how good their run defense that was that game. I was there. I watched it.
Right.
The Dallas Cowboys couldn't buy a first down on the ground.
Starting with an 8-yard run, though, in that, because you also even said it coming out yourself, everyone knows that they're going to try and run and kill the clock. So if there's an 8-yard run and you've got you've got 2 plays to get a first down, I think they can QB sneak it and get the first down.
Maybe, but I think that the Lions have the best run defense in the NFL at this point in the season. And nobody's better at stopping the QB sneak than the Lions. They stopped the tush push 3 times last year. I think that they're fully equipped for short yardage smash mouth situations. And to say that the Dallas Cowboys, quote, surely would have run out the clock is disingenuous, because it's not true. We don't know that. And so there is some ambiguity with the tripping call and how it affected the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys still got very close to a first down against what was a pretty suspect Lions pass defense by throwing the ball. It may have actually given them the advantage. They gained 11 and 8 yards and wasted 10 additional seconds than they would have wasted had they run the ball 3 times and kicked. So the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think they were severely disadvantaged at the penalty, because they were still well within Aubrey's field goal range. They got the chance to waste more yardage, and if they get a first down, they end the game. So they have all incentive to throw to CeeDee Lamb, who at that point had 230 receiving yards in this game. They could not cover CD. So the Lions got the stop against all odds when their pass defense was terrible. I for one, have faith that the run defense, which held Tony Pollard, if you take out his longest run, to less than 2 yards per carry, I think they make that stop. But this is completely irrelevant, because if they make this, if they don't,
my argue is that they got the first down, though. My argue is that they get the first down. Second down and 2, I think they go get the first down.
And my argument is, against the best run defense in the NFL, it's less than a certainty. It's not a certainty, and it's not even close. I think it's a 60% chance they get the first down. You would argue probably closer to 80-90, I would imagine.
Yes. Or at least in the 80s. And to me, that does become relevant, because, again, and that's where it does become a red herring argument, I will admit.
It is. It's
because I can't prove that they got a first down any more than you can prove that they would have gotten a stop. But that is the belief there.
Right. And I'm arguing only that the Lions had a good run defense that was capable of making a stop on 2nd and 2 and 3rd and 2. That's all I'm arguing, that they were capable of doing it. And I think both of us would argue that they were capable of making that stop. It's not 100%. This is not like, the 2012 Chiefs run defense, for example. Actually, that was a fairly good run defense. But they won 2 games.
Good defense. They had terrible offense.
Yeah, I mean, but our
point being, this was defense.
Exactly. This is not a terrible run defense. Yeah, 4th and 18. They would be sacking the box. I would presume they would put extra backers in there. They would sell out to stop this run. And so I don't think that it's a certainty that they get the first down and waste the clock away. I don't believe that.
And that's where it all come down to is do you believe that the Cowboys could have done it? Because this is a good year for the Cowboys. That was a very good year for the Cowboys. They did try and pass, right? They were kind of forced to pass deep, which is why they had to almost throw it away. That's what the play was. It was an attempt to pass deep to CeeDee Lamb that they basically had to throw away. But if you're at 2nd and 2, you stop the run, now it's 3rd and 2, it opens up the short game. So the whole playbook is available. I think that they get it, and then this situation doesn't happen. Going on to my next points, though, the reason that I had you have the all 22 of the play is because at first I thought he was covered up, and admittedly I realized actually no, he wasn't.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You can very clearly see that he wasn't covered up, nor is there any indication that he could have been, unless you hear, oh, number 70's reported eligible. All right, he might. All right, I'm not too worried about 68 now. But that also goes into,
which I would
it's
almost
very clear that Brad Allen thought it was 70, but that's why I brought in point number 3 then.
And that's fair. And your point that maybe the defense was deceived by the missed call, it's possible. But here's my point of contention as another eyewitness account. Since they had to redo the play, the Dallas Cowboys fans were louder than any NFL game that I have been to in my life, and I've been to Arrowhead. That was an extremely loud scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And there is almost 0% chance that the players down on the field heard what the PA speaker was saying. So I don't think that. Plus, Taylor Decker had 2 defenders surrounding him in the end zone when he caught the pass. It's not like he was standing all by himself, like nobody expected him to go out. He was kind of covered. It's a little weird. So I don't think that the defense was at a disadvantage.
He became covered when they saw the ball. But he was not covered when he released. He was not being covered when he released from the line.
Maybe so, but I don't. It's not like one of those plays where, it
wasn't Sky Moore against the Eagles where there's not an eagle around him.
That's
for 10
a great
yards.
example. I was going to say Peyton Manning naked bootleg. Like nobody even considered it a possibility. Yeah. Like I'm looking at the all-22 right now. There's a linebacker dropping into zone coverage where Taylor Decker is playing. Taylor Decker's big ass stuck right behind him. He never saw him because it was a great route. Not that, the defense had an unfair advantage. Plus the guy who was covering Dan Skipper threw him into the backfield. Dan Skipper got destroyed on this play. And there was never a thought to cover him, which means I don't think the defense was even considering an eligible tackle reception on this play. Amon-Ra St. Brown was killing them all game. I thought that Amon-Ra was going to get the ball, and I think the Cowboys thought that too.
Mm-hmm. But then, so that's the first leg of my argument where it comes down to that 15 yards. I think that 2nd and 8 there they get the first down, but then that second one comes into Skipper should never have even been walking towards the ref in the first place, especially with it being announced. That's where I think it faults the Lions a little bit more, is because of Murphy's Law. Don't even give the ref an option to think that 70 could be the guy that reported.
But you also have to assume that the ref is going to do his job. That's like saying don't even bother putting hands on the receiver because there's a possibility of being called for pass interference. You have to put your hands on the receiver or else you're getting cooked. There is no argument where you can make that the Lions can't do what they need to do legally to win this game because the ref could make a mistake. That is no way to play to coach an NFL football team or to live your life. You have to make every decision to get every possible advantage. And so if the Lions are living their lives, to Murphy's Law, they would have never called this play in the first place. They're throwing to a tackle with a game on the line.
Sure, but at the same time, though, if I'm the ref, I see a guy coming off.
Hold on. It's the ref's sole responsibility, per your testimony, to see through the lies of the offense and call the game fairly, especially if he was briefed on the play before the game, especially if he knows what's coming. It's his sole job. His one responsibility on that play at that moment is to see through what the offense is doing and make the correct call. He nods at Decker, confuses him with Skipper, and calls the wrong thing and does not take accountability. So I don't think that Murphy's Law applies here. I don't. I think that the ref made a mistake regardless of what the Lions did, so the ref is at fault. That's my argument.
So deceive the defense, absolutely. I think it's a genius play design, especially with who was the tackle that originally lined up in the slot?
Penei Sewell.
Yeah, Penei Sewell. Yeah, lining Penei Sewell up in the slot, being like, oh, that's that's genius. That's genius. I will give Dan Campbell that. But the ref is not no one's ever trying to deceive a ref. So if I'm a ref, I'm seeing, all right, this guy's I know there's going to be some kind of tackle out play or at least tackle eligibility play. I don't know when or who, but I have been informed that it's going to happen. oh shit, there's a guy coming on and he's running right to me. I got you. All right, you guys are telling me
But that's
this
not
is
what
because
happened. But that's not what happened. We have close-up footage of him looking directly, eyes at Taylor Decker, saying, you're reporting because Taylor Decker did what you're supposed to do. And that's why the rules are read this way. You have to go up to the ref and report. It's not like the Lions had all three of these guys in a bunch to confuse the refs. Skipper is way off in the distance. He never approaches the ref, never once says anything to him. The Lions had Decker report to the ref, and that's all they did. They had Dan Skipper running up, but that's not illegal, and I don't think it's confusing enough because if you never have a conversation with him, he couldn't have reported. So the ref made a mistake because if you're arguing that Skipper running up confused the ref, then the ref is still at fault because Skipper never spoke to him, and you're not allowed to make a guy eligible if you never spoke to him. That's on the ref. He's not following his own protocol set by the NFL.
So I'm not saying the ref didn't make any mistake, because obviously he did. But at the same time, though, like, I'm just saying that I understand where the ref got confused. I don't think it's him just being this boneheaded error, because what I'm seeing there is, yes, he's right there, but you've got two guys coming at you.
Tyler,
I'm just, I see where it's also like it's a high stakes game. Like, this is important. Like, the ref's making sure, like, all right, I got to make sure everything's right too. I see this guy coming at me. Yep. I'm with it. I know what you guys are doing. I see what's happening.
Allow me to bring in another high stakes scenario that could help kind of put this into perspective. Okay. As a driver of a vehicle, it's your sole job to keep you and your passengers safe in the car on the road. Yes?
Okay.
If I am texting and driving and I crash my car and I go, I understand why he crashed because he was texting on his phone. He wasn't doing the sole responsibility of keeping his eyes on the road and driving the car. Yeah, you can understand why he made the mistake, but the mistake is still on the driver. So if you can understand why maybe the ref who is
that's
too
an irrelevant
stupid
analogy. I think that's a different analogy.
Because your argument falls apart when you realize that Dan Skipper never spoke to the ref. If the Lions had approached Dan Skipper to the ref and they both conversed with him and then he got them confused, fine. Your point stands perfectly. But the fact that Skipper never spoke to the ref means that the ref never spoke to Skipper. It means that Skipper never said, I, number 70, am reporting as eligible. It means that the ref made an assumption, acted on that assumption, and was wrong when the ref's sole job is to not assume anything with reporting and make the right call. The ref did not do that. He made an assumption, and it came back to bite the Lions, who did nothing wrong. You are allowed to have a guy sprint at the ref and not talk to him. If he doesn't talk to him, he doesn't report. So that's fine.
I think there's a lot of spirit of the law that does happen in everyday workplace where, maybe and I think this is one of them, and it was an unfortunate timing of the spirit of the law applying over the letter of the law.
But the letter of the law says that you have to talk to him. So
sure.
I don't think that there's much spirit of the law here. The spirit of the law argument comes in when somebody's
seeing that. If he's seeing that 70's coming on and be like, "Yep, he's reporting. I gotcha." That would be spirit of the law applying.
But Tyler, he doesn't do that. He nods at Decker, who reported. He never acknowledges Skipper. Do we need to play the video back? He doesn't even acknowledge Skipper.
Pull that up, because there is one other thing too. Go ahead. I'm pull that up.
Yeah. Well, so
I want to notice that. Hold on. No,
so
go ahead.
Decker is walking up to the ref.
So he's looking at 70 there. And now, right before he ends up jogging away from the huddle, there's a moment where in a straight line is the ref, 68, and 70.
Right. But my point being is that 70 never speaks to the ref ever. Once. He never speaks to him. You have got to say explicitly, and that's why this angle is so important, because you can't see from that other angle what the ref is looking at. The ref, his face is looking directly at Taylor Decker, pointing at him and saying, "Nice work, you've reported." I understand what you're saying by the straight line, but this is not someone who's looking over a 6'8" offensive tackle. This is someone who's looking at a 6'8" offensive tackle. If he was not looking at him,
this is also where amongst the three linemen that are in vicinity, we'll call it, of the ref, there are three linemen. Two of them are right up on him, and then the third one's entering the play. I think it's reasonable assumption that it could be like, all right, these guys are the decoys. He's coming on to this must be who they want for this particular play.
Do you
I'm just saying that
understand
there are
the
avenues. I'm
problem
just
with
saying
what
there
you
are
just
avenues
said?
where I'm simply saying there are avenues where he could be confused. I'm not
So,
saying he didn't make a mistake.
so are referees allowed to call penalties on reasonable assumptions, or do they have to see the infraction occur? They have to
They have to
see
see
it.
the infraction. Yeah,
Exactly. So you can't. The referee, in no circumstance at any point in the game ever, is supposed to reasonably assume anything. If you didn't see it, and that's true in replay. If you have to replay a touchdown and there's no evidence, even if there's a reasonable assumption the dude caught it, you can't call it because you need concrete evidence to overturn something. That's true in officiating in every sport, especially the NFL. So the fact that you are saying yourself that Brad Allen could have made a reasonable assumption means that he's not doing his job as an official. He's got to go with what's in front of him. If the Lions, conversely, if the Lions had Skipper catch the football, they should be called for an illegal formation because he didn't report. That's my point.
I think there's lots of cases in every single game where the refs act on reasonable assumption.
And I think that's and that's the reason why we have a podcast, because the referees are not doing their job. You should never, as a referee, act on reasonable assumption, but sometimes the reasonable assumption is close to, or if not 99%, and so the refs throw the flag anyway. And that's why we have situations where angle and perspective matter. That's why you can't assume as a ref. If at all possible, you can't assume. And Brad Allen assumed here. And my biggest evidence that we have not brought up yet is as a result of this play, Brad Allen was barred refereeing of any playoff games this season. The NFL admits by barring him from playoff games that he is at fault squarely for this by preventing him from refereeing the most important games of the year. The NFL wouldn't do that if they thought the Lions were at fault here. Brad Allen made a mistake and he was punished by his own organization, an organization that is notoriously defensive of their officials, even when they're wrong. He got concrete punishment for this. And I think that speaks volumes for his responsibility and accountability for this play. That's something we haven't brought up yet, but I think it's important to mention.
The one other clarification also is, did you say 70 had never reported in that game?
I said he had. I said Decker had never reported.
He
You said Decker reported. I was like, Decker never reported. He's the starting left tackle. Skipper reported earlier in the game, which is why the ref could have made that assumption, but it's the wrong assumption. You should never assume because every play is different. So even if Skipper reported before, I don't think that's the Lions. The Lions did that all year. I think that's probably why Dan Campbell informed him of the play ahead of time.
The only other argument that I could give outside of just the tripping penalty and then this angled situation is, and I don't like this argument, but I'm just kind of I'm now kind of shifting into devil's advocate. There's a reason I didn't report this in my initial analysis, but with the ref saying 70 is reported eligible, there is that ability for the Lions to go back and be like, hey, wait a minute, that's the wrong number. As you pointed out, and this is why I did not bring it up, it's extremely loud. It's very reasonable that the Lions did not hear 70 has reported eligible because they're not listening for that.
Right.
But to those that are still on my side, that's another point of evidence or piece of evidence that was not brought into the record.
And that I do concede. I have no, that's kind of why the refs are supposed to announce it. If this was a quiet game, I think the Lions would happily Jared Goff, who's very smart, would have corrected it. But since nobody could hear, it unfortunately exacerbated the mistake of Brad Allen, because it was a mistake since Decker did, as we can see in this video, reach to him.
And ultimately, again, my whole argument wasn't that he never made a mistake. I understand he made a mistake, but I'm just saying that I understand where the mistake came from. I don't think it's this egregious, like, how the heck do you miss that? A toddler could have made that type of mistake. I think he got confused at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it unfortunately did hurt the Lions on that particular play.
And I don't doubt that argument, and I think that because of how you just framed it, he got confused. I think that the fault squarely relies on the ref because the Lions did everything legally, and you can't live your life concerned about the mistakes of others. A big, and you're a coach, you know this, a big principle of football is do your job, don't worry about everything else. If you do your job on a particular play, if all 11 do their job on a particular play, the play succeeds. And so you have to trust in the people around you that they're going to do their job. And unfortunately, the Lions trusted that the official was going to do his job, his sole job, to ensure that the game is being officiated correctly, and he didn't do that. So the Lions should not be faulted for trusting the official to do his job. That's my argument.
I think I found a better analysis than your driving analysis, and you can tell me how you feel. So my whole thing is don't put yourself in the position to where someone could get confused. One thing that I tell, especially as a coach, is when the offense flinches, they have a false start, correct?
Sure.
So because I'm a middle school coach and I do not have professionally trained NFL refs, I tell my defense, if the offense flinches, I do not want you to go, because a Tuesday middle school ref could very easily think that's encroachment, not a false start. You could have missed the flinch. Don't put yourself in the position to get an encroachment. Let us yell at the ref that the offense flinched. That's kind of what I mean in this scenario of like, they did it legally, but don't put yourself in the position to where you could be at fault for that.
You have to understand that logic doesn't hold up when you apply it to anything else. That's like saying we can't go in motion because what if the ref catches us going forward a microscopic amount and calls illegal motion? That means we can't ever go in motion. That is stupid. Everybody goes in motion. Motion is required in NFL offenses, and you can't dumb down your offense because there's a possibility that some idiot who the NFL demoted because of his stupidity.
I'm not saying dumb down the
made
offense.
A mistake.
I'm saying that like they have to announce who reported eligible. So why are you sending these other 3 guys in? Because only one needs to talk to. You should have only sent one guy because they have to report the number anyway. They have to announce the number anyway.
How many of those guys do you think are actually listening to that number? I think the Lions are perfectly founded, and the play prior, they lined up Penei Sewell as a wide receiver, and they blew it dead for whatever reason. They had to restart. I
think that one was simply reviewing the call. I don't think that was. I think that was reviewing.
But sadly, for the Lions, another bad ref moment. The Cowboys got a chance to look at their formation and get an idea of what they were going to do, and so I think the Lions were just like, hey, we're not going to give them any clues as to who's getting the ball, because if Taylor Decker goes up and reports to the ref, they know 100% that he's the eligible tackle and he's going to get it because they see it visually. But if you reduce it to only an auditory cue, that is, by definition, the best way to deceive the defense. Take away one of their senses. If they see and hear it, maybe they'll pay more attention. If they just hear it, maybe they missed it. That is textbook deception. It's exactly what you're supposed to do as an NFL player. That's why hard counts work. That's like saying we should never do a hard count, because what if the referee accidentally thinks that the center spiked the ball? Like it's just, he gets confused by the hard count. It's just not how it's supposed to work. You can't live your life or call your football games in fear of the referee making a mistake, because referees will make mistakes. And I'm just arguing
my point of living in fear on that.
Well, and I'm just arguing that this mistake was egregious because Dan Skipper never face-to-face reported to him. He never followed the protocol. So Brad Allen's mistake is making that assumption when, in reality, the Lions did everything right. Brad Allen made the mistake, even with the deception of Skipper. If your point, like I said earlier, your point stands up if Skipper approached the ref and talked to him. Since he didn't, the blame lies on Brad Allen's hands. What counter do you have to that, since he never approached the ref? You've not countered that yet, because
it's where I think there's a lot more spirit of the law happening in the NFL rulebook in practice than we are known about. And so really the only counter is when 70's coming out from the sideline, not like from the huddle, but like from the sideline. I understand where one would think, oh, here's the play that I was informed about before the game. But that's the reason the Lions. And it's an assumption. And it's an assumption that he shouldn't have made, but I understand where the assumption came from, is all I'm saying.
I'm here to argue that it doesn't matter if you understand his perspective or not. It matters who made the mistake. Like, that's kind of where the car argument comes from. You can understand why, like maybe he was texting his boss a really important email. You can understand why he felt the need to respond to that at that time. But the reality is, He made a mistake by pulling out his phone and texting while driving. That's a mistake no matter the circumstances, no matter what the stakes were. It is a mistake is a mistake. And the ref made the biggest mistake. And that's announcing wrong, saying the wrong guy reported to you. Dan Skipper never reported. It's a fact. He never reported to the ref. We agree on that fact, right? He never reported.
He never got face to face. Yeah.
Yeah. He never got face to face to tell the ref I'm eligible. So the blame is squarely on the referee. Had Skipper actually gone face to face with the ref, your point is perfect. It makes sense. You were actually probably right in this case. But since that's not the case, there is no room for doubt. The mistake was a mix-up of two big guys, and the refs just announced the wrong big guy. That's what happened, and the NFL demoted him because of it. So I don't need any other evidence if the NFL takes action against his own referee. That to me speaks enough volumes.
And then I'll close my case with just recapping of, I think Brad Allen made a lot of mistakes, but I don't think that tripping call is irrelevant. I think that tripping call cost the Cowboys, and then this mistake might have cost the Lions. But if you make no mistakes, I don't think the Lions are in this situation to begin with. And I think it was stupid on the Lions to send 3 guys to the ref, or maybe 2.5 guys to the ref.
I'll take it 2.5, but I still think that we can't blame the Lions for this. But let us know down in the comments what you thought about this play. Was this a robbery at the hands of Brad Allen, or should the Lions have been more careful with their offensive substitutions? Please let us know. But until next time, training camp is right around the corner. Just 2 weeks from now, we will be giving you live contact from NFL training camp. Super excited for that, but tune in next time.
Appreciate you guys.